The intervention blindsided me on a regular Tuesday morning. I was reviewing quarterly reports in my office when they filed in like a funeral procession. My sister Francesca leading the charge, followed by our mother, my stepfather Tony, and Mitchell, our CEO. My name is Valentina, and that was the day my sister stole my life. Val, we need to talk, Francesca said, her voice dripping with rehearsed concern. She perched herself on the edge of my desk while the others formed a semicircle around me. We're worried about you. I laughed, thinking it was some kind of joke. Worried? About what? Mom stepped forward, tears already forming in her eyes. Sweetheart, we've noticed changes in your behavior. The late nights, the erratic decisions, the mood swings. I've been working overtime on the Miller account, I said, my stomach tightening. You know that, Francesca. You're on the same project. Found these in your desk drawer, Francesca announced, producing an orange prescription bottle I'd never seen before. Oxycodone, Val? Really? My blood ran cold. That's not mine. I've never seen that before in my life. Classic denial, Tony muttered, shaking his head. Just like my brother before we lost him. I'm not in denial. Francesca, tell them. You know I don't take drugs. I stood up, my chair rolling back against the wall. This is insane. Mitchell cleared his throat. The board has agreed to a temporary leave of absence while you seek treatment. We've already arranged everything with Pine Grove Recovery Center. The board? When was this discussed? I own 30% of this company. My voice was rising, which I knew made me sound exactly like someone having a breakdown. Francesca, what did you do? I'm trying to save your life, she said, reaching for my hand. I yanked it away. The power of attorney paperwork is already filed. I'll manage your shares until you're better. Power of attorney? The room started spinning. Mom, you can't believe this. Please. Mom was sobbing now. We just want our Val back. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway. My doorway, to my office, in my company. This is a setup, I said, my voice shaking. Francesca's lying. Search my office, search my house, drug test me right now. I'll prove it. The car's waiting downstairs, Francesca said softly. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I looked at each face in turn. Mom's tear-stained desperation, Tony's righteous judgment, Mitchell's professional detachment, and Francesca's perfect mask of concern. The prescription bottle sat on my desk like a smoking gun. You'll regret this, I said, locking eyes with my sister. I swear to God, Francesca, you'll regret this day for the rest of your life. See? Francesca turned to the others. Paranoid aggression, classic symptom. The security guard stepped forward. One reached for my arm. Don't touch me, I snapped. I can walk myself out. I grabbed my purse, leaving everything else behind. My family watched in silence as I walked past them, head held high despite the humiliation burning through my chest. Employees peeked over their cubicle walls, pretending not to stare as I was escorted to the elevator. In the parking garage, a black SUV waited with Pine Grove Recovery Center printed on the side. The driver opened the back door. Ms. Perry, I'm David from Pine Grove. We'll take good care of you. I paused before getting in, turning to look at Francesca, who had followed us down. You planted those pills, didn't you? She stepped closer, dropping her voice. Prove it, little sister. Oh, wait, you'll be too busy in rehab. Why? I whispered. We're family. Family? She smiled, and for a moment, I saw the real Francesca. Family is business, Val, and business is about winning. I got into the SUV, my mind already racing. Francesca thought she'd won, thought she'd broken me, but she'd made a crucial mistake. She'd left me alive, with nothing left to lose. As we pulled away from the office building, I made myself a promise. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning. I'd play the good little addict, jump through their hoops, make them all believe I was properly chastised and reformed. And then, when they least expected it, I'd take back everything that was mine and make sure Francesca lost everything that was hers. The SUV turned onto the highway, carrying me toward Pine Grove, toward exile, toward revenge. Game on, sister. Game on. Pine Grove wasn't what I expected. Instead of the prison-like facility I'd imagined, I found myself in what looked like an upscale resort, complete with meditation gardens and a state-of-the-art gym. My room even had a view of the mountains. It was almost nice enough to make me forget I was here against my will. Almost. How are you settling in? Dr. Sarah, my assigned therapist, asked during our first session. She had kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude I found myself respecting despite my situation. Wonderfully, I replied, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Love what you've done with the place. Very five-star imprisonment. She didn't take the bait. Your intake forms say you're here for oxycodone dependency, but your drug tests came back negative. Want to talk about that? Finally, someone with a brain. I leaned forward. I was set up. My sister planted those pills to take control of my shares in our family business. That's quite an accusation. It's quite a truth. I stood up and paced the room. But you probably think I'm in denial, right? That's what they all say? What I think doesn't matter, she said, watching me carefully. What matters is how you use your time here. I stopped pacing. What do you mean? You're here for 90 days, Valentina. That's a fact. Whether you were set up or not, you have two choices. Waste this time being angry or use it to your advantage. Her words hit home. She was right. I was stuck here regardless. Might as well make it count. What would you suggest? I asked, sitting back down. We offer business courses through our partnership with local colleges. Legal workshops, too. Many of our guests find them enlightening. I caught her subtle smile and understood. She believed me. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. I threw myself into every course available, from corporate law to financial management. During group therapy, I played the role of the recovering addict perfectly, sharing manufactured stories of my struggle, while secretly taking notes on manipulation techniques from our counselors. One morning, while I was studying in the library, Kendra, one of the staff members I'd grown close to, dropped an envelope on my table. "This came for you," she whispered. "I didn't log it in the system." Inside was a letter from Jasper, my old college friend, who'd gone on to become a successful tech entrepreneur. We hadn't spoken in years. "Val," it read, "news travels fast. I know you're not an addict. You were too straight edge in college to even take aspirin. I've been watching your sister's moves. She's making mistakes, big ones. Call me when you're out. We should talk. Jay." "Good news?" Kendra asked, noticing my expression. "Could be." I studied her face. "Why are you helping me?" She glanced around before sitting down. My brother lost everything in a similar setup. His business partner framed him for embezzlement. By the time he proved his innocence, the company was gone. He never recovered. "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be smart." She pulled out her phone, showing me a news article about my company. "Your sister's been busy. 3 board members resigned last week." My heart raced. She's consolidating power. Okay, exactly. But look at the stock prices. She zoomed in on a graph. They're dropping. The market doesn't trust her leadership. I grabbed a notebook and started writing. "I need you to teach me everything you know about the rehab's computer system. Every weakness, every backdoor." "Already done." She slid a USB drive across the table. "Network passwords, scheduling software, everything. Just make her pay, okay? Count on it." I tucked the drive into my bra. "But first, I need to make a few calls. Know any staff phones that aren't monitored?" She grinned. "Night supervisor's office. I have keys. She's out sick all week." That night, I made my first call to Jasper. His voice was exactly as I remembered. Confident, sharp, ready for action. "Took you long enough," he said. "Ready to talk strategy?" I looked out my window at the mountains, thinking of Francesca sitting in my office, sleeping in her penthouse, believing she'd won. "More than ready," I replied. "But I need to know everything. Every move she's made, every deal she's planning. And then I need your help to destroy her." "That's my girl," he laughed. "Class starts tomorrow. Hope you're taking notes." I hung up feeling more alive than I had in weeks. Francesca thought she'd sentenced me to prison, but she'd actually given me something precious. Time. Time to learn, to plan, to prepare. And I was going to use every second of it. "She's trying to sell your shares," Jasper's voice crackled through the phone. I was back in the night supervisor's office, having my weekly midnight strategy session. "But there's a problem. She needs board approval." "Which she doesn't have," I said, scrolling through the documents Kendra had helped me access. "That's why the board members resigned. She tried to force their hands." "Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting." I heard keyboard clicks in the background. "She's been meeting with some shady investment groups. One of them caught my attention, Blue Harbor Capital." "Never heard of them." "Because they didn't exist 6 months ago. It's a shell company, Val. And guess who's connected to it?" My breath caught. "Mitchell." "Bingo! Your CEO is helping your sister steal your company right out from under you." I scribbled notes furiously. "Can you get me proof?" "Already did. Check your email. Kendra set you up with a secure account, right?" I opened the laptop Kendra had smuggled in and clicked through the evidence. Bank transfers, shell companies, offshore accounts. It was all there. "Holy shit, Jasper. This is gold." "That's not all," he said. "Your mother's been asking questions. Francesca's story isn't holding up, and people are starting to notice you're not exactly acting like an addict in rehab." A knock at the door made me jump. Kendra slipped in, looking worried. "Someone's coming," she whispered. "Gotta go," I told Jasper. "Same time next week?" "Wait, one more thing. My sister Sabrina, she's on your board. She wants to meet." I ended the call just as footsteps echoed down the hall. Kendra and I quickly shut down the computer and slipped out the back door, barely making it around the corner, before Dr. Sarah walked past. Back in my room, Kendra handed me a newspaper. Page 6, Business Section. The headline made my blood boil. "Perry Industries announces restructuring. Francesca Perry to assume full control." "She's making her move," I said. "We need to speed things up." "Already on it." Kendra pulled out her phone. "I got you a meeting with Sabrina tomorrow during your therapy session. Dr. Sarah's covering for you." I raised an eyebrow. "Dr. Sarah's in on this?" "Let's just say she's seen enough rich families destroy each other to know which side to back." The next day, Sabrina met me in Dr. Sarah's office. She was sharply dressed and straight to the point. "Your sister's a nightmare," she said, sitting down. "She's threatening board members, manipulating accounts, and now this Blue Harbor deal, it stinks." "I need allies on the board," I said. "People who'll block the share transfer when I make my move." "You'll have them. Half the board already regrets believing her addiction story." "But Val—" She leaned forward. "We need to talk about your mother." My chest tightened. "What about her?" "She came to my office yesterday, asking about the intervention. Said some things weren't adding up. Francesca's getting sloppy, making mistakes. Your mother found prescription records that prove those pills weren't yours." Hope flared in my chest, but I squashed it down. "It doesn't matter. The damage is done." "It matters because Francesca's panicking. She's pushing this Blue Harbor deal through too fast, making enemies. One wrong move and everything could collapse." I stood up and walked to the window, watching patients stroll through the garden below. "Then let's give her the wrong move. Sabrina, how would you like to help me destroy my sister?" She smiled. "I thought you'd never ask." Over the next hour, we crafted a plan. Sabrina would stall the Blue Harbor deal while I set up a network of proxy buyers. Meanwhile, Jasper would start leaking strategic information to the board about Francesca's dealings. "One condition," Sabrina said as she prepared to leave. "When this is over, you have to talk to your mother. Really talk to her." "Deal." I walked her to the door. "And Sabrina, thank you." "Don't thank me yet. The hard part's still coming." After she left, I sat in Dr. Sarah's office, looking at the newspaper again. Francesca's photo smiled up at me, confident and cruel. She thought she was untouchable, thought she had all the power. But power isn't just about position or money. It's about information, allies, and patience. I had spent my time in rehab building all three, while she spent hers making enemies and mistakes. I picked up my phone and texted Kendra. "It's time. Start phase 2. Her reply came instantly. Ready when you are, boss. The game was changing. Francesca thought she was the hunter, but she was about to become the prey. And this time, I had proof, allies, and absolutely nothing left to lose. Let the real games begin. Your sister's coming to visit today, Dr. Sarah announced during our morning session. 2 months had passed since my admission, and Phase 2 was in full swing. I kept my face neutral. Really? How interesting. Remember your training, she said, dropping her therapist persona. Don't let her see anything but what she expects to see. An hour later, I sat in the visitor's room, wearing the baggiest clothes I could find, my hair deliberately messy. When Francesca walked in, perfectly coiffed in her designer suit, I had to fight back a smile. She'd walked right into my trap. Val, she said, air kissing my cheek. You look better. Thanks, I mumbled, keeping my eyes down. The programs here really help. She sat across from me, setting her expensive handbag on the floor. I brought some papers for you to sign. Just routine stuff for the company. What kind of papers? I asked, making my voice small and uncertain. Nothing major. Just transferring some shares to help with cash flow. She slid the documents across the table. The doctors say you're doing well. Maybe we can talk about you coming home soon. I pretended to read the papers while actually studying her face. There was tension around her eyes, a slight tremor in her hands. Something was wrong in her perfect little world. Is everything okay at the office? I asked innocently. Of course, she said too quickly. Why wouldn't it be? Just asking. Mom mentioned something about board meetings being tense lately. Francesca's eye twitched. You've been talking to Mom? She visits sometimes, when you're busy. The pen creaked in Francesca's grip. Listen, Val, I know this has been hard, but everything I've done has been for your own good, for the family. I looked up, letting her see just a glimpse of the old me. Has it? Before she could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Jasper. Blue Harbor deal falling apart. Mitchell cracking under pressure. Move now. I returned to my submissive pose. I'm sorry, I need time to read these properly. The doctors say I shouldn't make big decisions without consulting my therapy team. But, Ms. Perry? Kendra appeared at the door. Your sister's group therapy session starts in 5 minutes. Francesca stood, smoothing her skirt. Keep the papers. Think about what I said. After she left, Kendra locked the door and pulled out her tablet. Got it all on camera, the whole conversation, plus her trying to make you sign documents without proper legal representation while under medical care. Perfect. I pulled out my phone. Jasper, you watching? Every second. His voice came through the speaker. She's desperate, Val. The Blue Harbor deal is her last shot at controlling the company. Without it, she loses everything. Time to push her over the edge. I turned to Kendra. Send the video to our friends at the board. Let them see how their acting CEO treats her sick sister. Already done, Kendra grinned. But that's not all. Mitchell called Sabrina this morning. He wants to meet. He's breaking ranks, Jasper said. Francesca must have promised him something she can't deliver. I stood up, energy coursing through me. Set up the meeting, and Jasper, release those offshore account records we found. Let's give Mitchell something to really worry about. You sure? He asked. Once we do this, there's no going back. Francesca crossed the point of no return the day she set me up. I walked to the window, watching her expensive car pull away. She wants to play hardball? Let's play. Later that night, I met with Dr. Sarah in her office. The news was already spreading through the business world. Mysterious leaks about Perry Industries, questions about offshore accounts, rumors of board member revolts. Your sister called, Dr. Sarah said. She's demanding we restrict your phone privileges, says you're not ready for outside contact. I laughed. Let me guess, right after the board called an emergency meeting? You're playing a dangerous game, Valentina. No, I corrected her. I'm winning a dangerous game. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Jasper. Mitchell agreed to meet. Tomorrow night. You ready? I thought about Francesca's face today, the fear behind her confident mask. Thought about her sitting in my office, thinking she was invincible. That would change tomorrow. Ready? I texted back. I've been ready for 2 months. Time to show my sister what happens when you underestimate family. The pieces were all in place. Mitchell was cracking, the board was turning, and Francesca was about to learn a very expensive lesson about karma. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. Mitchell looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, suit wrinkled, hair unkempt. Not the polished CEO I remembered. He sat across from me in Dr. Sarah's office, fidgeting with his tie. "You shouldn't be here," he said, glancing nervously at the door. "If Francesca finds out, she's the least of your problems right now." I slid a folder across the desk. "Care to explain these transfers?" His hands shook as he opened it. "Where did you get these?" "Does it matter? The SEC will have them by morning unless we make a deal." "You don't understand," he whispered. "She has dirt on all of us. Things that could ruin careers, destroy families." I leaned forward. "Tell me everything." Over the next hour, Mitchell spilled his guts. Francesca hadn't just been manipulating the company, she'd been blackmailing board members, threatening families, and cooking books. The Blue Harbor deal was meant to cover her tracks before anyone caught on. "And you helped her," I said, my voice hard. "I didn't have a choice." He wiped sweat from his forehead. "She found out about my gambling debts, said she'd help if I played along with her story about you." My phone buzzed. A text from Sabrina. "Emergency board meeting called for tomorrow. F losing control, making threats." "Here's what's going to happen," I told Mitchell. "Tomorrow you're going to tell the board everything, every detail, every threat, every illegal move she made. She'll destroy me." "No, she won't." I handed him another folder. "Because I have proof that you were acting under duress. Play this right, and you might keep your career. Cross me, and you'll wish Francesca was your only problem." After Mitchell left, Kendra rushed in. "Your mother's here." "What?" My heart jumped. "She's not scheduled to visit until—" "Val?" Mom stood in the doorway, looking older than I remembered. "We need to talk." Kendra squeezed my shoulder and left us alone. Mom sat down, pulling something from her purse. A prescription bottle. "I found these in Francesca's desk," she said. "Same ones she claimed were yours. I had them tested. The fingerprints." Her voice broke. "Oh God, Val, what did we do to you?" "Mom." "No, let me finish." She wiped her eyes. "I've been such a fool. Your sister, she's not who I thought she was. The things I've discovered." "I know," I said softly. "I know everything." "You do?" She looked up sharply. "Of course you do. You've been planning something, haven't you? That's why Francesca's been so erratic lately." I studied her face, looking for any sign of deception. "Whose side are you on, Mom?" "Yours," she said without hesitation. "I should have been from the start. Tell me how to make this right." Before I could respond, my phone exploded with messages. Jasper, Sabrina, and Kendra all texting at once. "Turn on the news now." Kendra burst back in with a tablet. The business news was running a breaking story. Perry Industries CEO, Francesca Perry, under investigation for securities fraud. "It's happening," I breathed. "She's cracking." Mom watched the news report, her face pale. "What do we do?" "We?" I asked. "Yes, we." She grabbed my hand. "I failed you once. I won't do it again." My phone rang. Jasper. "Val, Francesca's on her way to Pine Grove. She knows." "Good." I stood up, adrenaline coursing through me. "Let her come." "Val," Mom said, "whatever you're planning, be careful. Your sister's dangerous when she's cornered." "So am I," I replied, watching the news coverage. And unlike her, I've had 2 months to prepare for this moment. Kendra returned with Dr. Sarah. "Security's been alerted. We're ready." "Mom," I said, "go home. What's about to happen? You don't want to be here for it." She stood, straightening her shoulders. "No, I've hidden from the truth long enough. I'm staying. Outside, we heard tires screeching in the parking lot, angry voices, security radio chatter. Places, everyone, I said, sitting behind Dr. Sarah's desk. Time for the final act. Footsteps pounded down the hallway. Mom sat beside me, Kendra and Dr. Sarah flanking the door. My phone buzzed one last time. Sabrina. Board members all notified. Everyone's watching. End this. The door burst open. Francesca stood there, designer suit disheveled, eyes wild with rage. You little bitch, she snarled. What have you done? I smiled, feeling calmer than I had in months. Hello, sister. Let's talk about those prescription bottles you planted, shall we? The door closed behind her, with a final sounding click. The endgame had begun. You have no idea what you're doing, Francesca spat, pacing Dr. Sarah's office like a caged animal. You're going to destroy everything. Everything you stole, you mean? I kept my voice steady, watching her unravel. Sit down, Francesca. We need to discuss the terms of your resignation. She laughed, high and brittle. Resignation? I own this company. No, Mom spoke up, her voice trembling but firm. You own nothing. The board is voting right now to freeze all your assets pending investigation. Francesca whirled on her. You're taking her side? After everything I've done for this family? Done for this family? I stood up, sliding a document across the desk. Like falsifying medical records? Bribing doctors? Blackmailing board members? You can't prove any of that. Actually, Dr. Sarah stepped forward, I can. I've documented everything since Valentina's admission, including your attempts to keep her medicated against her will. Francesca's face went white. You're bluffing. Check your phone, I said. The SEC announcement should be hitting any minute now. On cue, her phone buzzed. She read the screen, her hands shaking. This is impossible. I covered everything. Except Mitchell, I said. He's singing like a canary right now. Turns out, threatening someone's family makes them hold quite a grudge. Mitchell? She sank into a chair. He wouldn't dare. He already has. Kendra handed me her tablet, showing a live stream of Mitchell talking to federal agents. And he's not alone. The whole house of cards is falling, sister dear. Francesca lunged for her phone, frantically dialing. James? James. Initiate the Blue Harbor transfer now. I don't care about the board. Just do it. He can't, I said calmly. Blue Harbor doesn't exist anymore. Just a shell company that mysteriously dissolved an hour ago, along with all your offshore accounts. You bitch! She hurled her phone at me. I ducked, and it shattered against the wall. You think you're so clever? I still have enough dirt to bury everyone in this room. No, you don't. Mom pulled out a USB drive. Because I found your safe. All your files, all your blackmail material, it's gone. I gave everything to the authorities this morning. Francesca stared at Mom, betrayal written across her face. You did what? I chose truth over fear, Mom said softly. Something you never understood. My phone buzzed. Jasper. Board vote complete. 11-0 against Francesca. You're back in. It's over, I told Francesca. You've lost everything, but I'm willing to make you a deal. A deal? She laughed desperately. What could you possibly offer me now? A choice. Option 1. Face criminal charges for fraud, embezzlement, and corporate espionage. Option 2. Resign quietly, return everything you stole, and take a position in our Tokyo office, far away from any real power. You're insane if you think. Option 2 includes keeping your trust fund, I interrupted. Option 1 includes a prison jumpsuit. Choose wisely. The fight drained from her face as reality set in. Outside, we could hear sirens approaching. Those would be the federal agents, Dr. Sarah said. They'll want to ask you some questions about those prescription bottles. Francesca's shoulders slumped. Tokyo? Tokyo, I confirmed. Sign the papers now, and you can be on a plane before they reach the door. She grabbed the resignation documents, signing without reading them. As soon as she finished, Kendra whisked them away. "The car's waiting at the back entrance," she said. "Your passport and plane ticket are inside." Francesca stood, straightening her jacket one last time. "You'll regret this, Val. Someday, when you least expect it." "No," I cut her off. "I won't. Because unlike you, I learn from my mistakes. Try anything, ever, and those federal agents will mysteriously receive an anonymous tip about where to find the rest of your files." She stared at me for a long moment, finally seeing me clearly. Not as her little sister, but as the woman who'd outplayed her at her own game. "Goodbye, Francesca," Mom said. "I hope you find peace in Tokyo." Without another word, Francesca left. We watched through the window as she climbed into the waiting car and disappeared into the night. "It's really over?" Mom asked. "Almost." I checked my phone. "The board wants to meet tomorrow. Time to rebuild what she destroyed." "Val," Dr. Sarah said, "are you ready for that? You've been through a lot." I looked around the room at my allies, my real family. "I'm ready, but first I need a drink. A real one, not whatever they serve in rehab." "I know just the place," Kendra grinned. "Let's celebrate taking down the queen bee." As we left Pine Grove behind, I felt lighter than I had in months. Francesca had tried to break me, but instead she'd made me stronger. Now it was time to show the world what I could do with that strength. Tokyo was far enough away. The company was mine again. And this time, I knew exactly who to trust. Walking into the boardroom felt like coming home. 3 months after leaving Pine Grove, I stood at the head of the table, looking at the faces of our board members, some nervous, some relieved, all waiting to see what would happen next. "Before we begin," I said, setting down my briefcase, "I want to thank everyone for their patience during this transition period." Mitchell shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He'd kept his job, barely, after turning state's evidence against Francesca. The federal investigation was ongoing, but our company's cooperation had earned us some goodwill. "The quarterly numbers are in," Sabrina announced, distributing folders. "We're up 12% since the leadership change." Speaking of change, I clicked through to the first slide of my presentation. "Let's talk about the future." The door opened, and Jasper walked in. Several board members straightened in their seats. His reputation preceded him. "Ladies and gentlemen," I gestured to Jasper, "meet our new Chief Strategy Officer." "Ms. Perry," one of the older board members spoke up. "While we appreciate your return, some of us have concerns about such dramatic changes so soon." "Understandable," I replied, "which is why I've brought proof of concept." I nodded to Jasper, who distributed more folders. "Open them." The room fell silent as they read. Then the whispers started. "This is impossible," someone muttered. "These numbers," another gasped. "Not impossible," Jasper said, taking his place beside me. "Just smart business. While certain people were busy playing power games, Valentina and I were developing partnerships with 3 major tech firms. They're ready to sign as soon as we give the word. Which brings us to today's vote," I continued. "We can either continue as we are, stable but stagnant, or we can embrace change and triple our market share by year's end." The boardroom doors opened again. This time, Mom walked in, followed by Tony. My stepfather looked uncomfortable in his suit, but his presence sent a clear message. The family was united again. "The floor is open for questions," I said, sitting down. For the next 2 hours, we fielded every concern, addressed every doubt. When the final vote came in, unanimous in favor of my plan, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. "One more thing," I said as the meeting wrapped up. "Mitchell." He looked up, startled. "Yes?" "Clear out your office by 5. Your resignation letter is already drafted." But you said if I cooperated." "Saw it. I said you'd keep your career," I corrected him. "Just not here. Jasper's arranged a position for you at a startup in Seattle. Consider it a fresh start." After everyone filed out, Jasper stayed behind. "That was kind of you. Seattle instead of prison." "It wasn't kindness," I said, gathering my papers. "It was strategy. He'll be grateful, which means he'll be useful if we ever need him. You've changed, he observed. Had to. I looked out the boardroom windows at the city skyline. Francesca taught me that much at least. My phone buzzed. A message from Kendra. Turn on the financial news now. I grabbed the remote and switched on the boardroom's wall-mounted screen. The headline made me smile. Perry Industries announces major tech partnership. Stock soars. Perfect timing, Jasper grinned. Ready for your interview? Why, almost. I straightened my jacket and checked my reflection in the window. How do I look? Like someone who just won a war. The elevator dinged and a news crew walked in, led by Kendra herself, now our head of PR. They're ready for you, she said. Remember, stick to the script. Nothing about Francesca or the investigation. I nodded, taking my position in front of the cameras. The interviewer, a sharp-looking woman in her 40s, settled into her chair. Ms. Perry, she began, your return to Perry Industries has been called a corporate fairy tale. How does it feel to be back? I smiled directly into the camera, knowing Francesca would be watching from her tiny Tokyo office. It feels right, I said. Family businesses are built on trust, integrity, and vision. Sometimes we lose sight of those values, but with the right team and the right direction, anything is possible. And the rumors about your sister's departure? I wish her all the best in her new role, I replied smoothly. But today isn't about the past, it's about the future, and Perry Industries' future has never looked brighter. After the interview, Mom waited in my office, my real office, not the temporary one Francesca had used. You were magnificent, she said, hugging me. Your father would be so proud. I hugged her back, feeling the last pieces of my life click into place. Thanks, Mom. Now, how about that family dinner you promised? I think we all have some catching up to do. Lead the way, she smiled. After all, that's what you do best. The autumn wind whipped around me as I stood on the office building's rooftop garden, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in shades of gold. Behind me, the door opened. Thought I'd find you up here, Kendra said, joining me at the railing. Big envelope came from Tokyo. I took the package, already knowing what it contained. Inside was a single document, Francesca's final resignation from her position in our Japanese office, along with a handwritten note. You win. F. Guess she finally accepted reality? Kendra mused. Or found another target. I crumpled the note. Either way, it's done. My phone buzzed. Jasper was calling. Val, turn on the news, right now. Kendra and I rushed to my office, where Mom and Tony were already watching the breaking news story. The headline made my heart stop. Federal agents arrest former Perry Industries CEO in Tokyo. Corporate fraud charges filed. She tried to do it again, Mom whispered. Set up another takeover scheme in Japan. But this time, Tony added, someone was watching. I picked up my phone. Jasper, did you— Not me, he said. Apparently, she never learned to cover her tracks properly. Japanese authorities had been monitoring her for months. The office door burst open, and Dr. Sarah walked in, followed by Sabrina. We came as soon as we heard. Family meeting time? Kendra asked. I looked around at the faces in my office. Not just colleagues or allies anymore, but true family. People who'd stood by me, fought with me, believed in me when everything seemed darkest. Actually, I said, I have something to show you all first. I led them to the conference room, where a presentation was already queued up. Remember that children's hospital project Francesca killed last year? The one Dad always wanted to build? Their eyes widened as I clicked through the slides. Architectural plans, budgets, timelines. Construction starts next month, I announced, and we're naming it after Dad. Mom started crying. He would have loved this. There's more. I switched to the next slide. We're also launching a foundation to help victims of corporate fraud rebuild their lives. Kendra's brother will be running it. Val, Jasper said slowly, these projects, they'll cost millions. Worth every penny. I turned to face them all. Francesca taught me how easy it is to destroy things. Companies, relationships, trust. But Dad taught me the real power comes from building things, creating something meaningful. Speaking of building things, Sabrina interjected, the board approved your proposal this morning. The tech merger is official. My phone buzzed again, this time with news alerts. Our stock price was soaring as the merger announcement hit the markets. Everything we'd worked for was falling into place. You did it, Dr. Sarah said proudly. You didn't just take back what was yours, you made it better. We did it, I corrected her. All of us. Tony cleared his throat. Well, since we're all here, your mother and I have news too. Mom beamed. We're renewing our vows. Small ceremony, just family, real family. And, Tony added, we're hoping you'll be the maid of honor, Val. I hugged them both, feeling the last shadows of Francesca's betrayal fade away. This was what winning really looked like, not destroying your enemies, but building something stronger from the ruins they left behind. Drinks at Marco's, Kendra suggested. I think this calls for a celebration. As everyone headed out, I lingered in my office for a moment, looking at Dad's old photo on my desk. Next to it sat the crumpled note from Francesca, two reminders of very different legacies. You coming? Jasper called from the doorway. I dropped Francesca's note in the trash where it belonged. Right behind you. At Marco's, surrounded by laughter and love, I raised my glass. To family. The ones we're born with, and the ones we choose. To family, they echoed. Later that night, as the city lights twinkled below my office window, I sent one final email to Francesca's Tokyo lawyer. A simple message. The Children's Hospital Project is still open to donations if she ever wants to be part of building something instead of destroying it. I didn't expect a response, but that wasn't the point. The point was that I'd finally learned what Dad always knew. True power isn't about control or revenge. It's about creating something meaningful, something lasting. And looking at what we'd built from the ashes of Francesca's betrayal, I knew we'd done exactly that.